Hey everyone, so Bernie Sanders, everyone's favorite democratic socialist, a term he can't even define, may be coming out soon with a plan to guarantee every American a government job for at least $15 an hour plus health benefits. Okay, so there are some huge negative economic implications here that should be obvious to anyone with a basic understanding of economics. First and foremost, this would effectively be putting a minimum wage in place for $15 an hour. And how is that, you may ask? Well, why would anyone take a job working anywhere for $8, $10, $12, or $14 an hour if you can go down to some federal building and walk out with a guaranteed job for $15 an hour with health benefits? If this actually went through, you would see a quick evaporation effect on all small businesses with modest profit margins. There would be no way they'd be able to compete for employees with a government that can print its own currency or simply raise taxes and forcefully take money from people to pay for these jobs programs. This would be like setting a boa constrictor loose in a chicken pen and wondering why all the chickens are dying. Meanwhile, only the huge corporations would be able to survive this. Only those who can afford complete automation would be left standing, which is weird given the criticisms Bernie Sanders has made about big businesses, but I digress. So according to Derek Hamilton, an economist at the New School who supports this guaranteed jobs program, he says the goal is to eliminate working poverty and involuntary unemployment altogether. Okay, well, first off, as far as poverty goes, you can still be employed and be in poverty. And what is one thing that will create a situation that increases the probability that people fall into that category, the category of being employed and in poverty? Well, if the government creates a situation in which everyone is guaranteed a $15 minimum wage, that means the money supply that is going through circulation will increase substantially. At the same time, more businesses will be dying off due to an inability to compete in the labor market, which means less avenues for the currency to circulate through. This will undoubtedly have an effect on inflation, and prices will be bid up throughout the entire country, thus decreasing the net purchasing power of your money, which means a $15 an hour wage will become the new $7 an hour wage, which means this whole thing was moot, except that we would be even worse off after this law takes effect, because some businesses that might have grown to become efficient providers for a good percentage of society will never be able to get off the ground in the first place, because there is no way they'd be able to afford hiring some teenagers to do some basic work when the government is handing out $15 an hour ditch digging jobs. There is no way to compete with that. And by the way, as far as eliminating unemployment, that is easy to do, but it does not mean you will have a healthy, vibrant economy with a good standard of living. The government could hire everyone tomorrow to be a street sweeper with a broom or a toilet cleaner with a toothbrush, and voila, unemployment is a thing of the past. But no real actual goods and services will have been created, and society has not progressed one bit in that scenario. Furthermore, I want to mention the multi-pronged negative effect here. You will have businesses dying left and right from this, which means more people will have to latch on to the government in order to even have a job, which means the government has to spend more money, but they will have fewer sources of tax income due to individuals and businesses having less money, or businesses being closed down outright, which then means the government has to raise the percent of taxes they take even more, which brings on more pain, or the government prints more money, which means higher inflation and higher prices. And ladies and gentlemen, Bernie Sanders and frankly his supporters have got to be some of the most economically illiterate people in the country, and I'm not trying to be insulting. I am just looking at the facts. I'm looking at what they say and what they support, and then I look at what I know about economics, and I can't come to any other conclusion except for that. Not to mention, along with being an underhanded way to get a federal minimum wage through, this also seems to be just an underhanded way of getting a form of universal health care through, where everyone is guaranteed health care. Again, seems great in theory. It would be wonderful if the healthcare industry did not have to deal with scarcity. It would be wonderful if there were an infinite supply of resources and services within the healthcare industry, but there simply is not. Given a limited amount of supply and a near infinite amount of demand, coupled with a guarantee to all people for guaranteed access to these resources, you will see an even further rise in healthcare costs and healthcare scarcity. And given the even greater role the government will have to play in the healthcare industry, you will see more regulation and more control and less flexibility on the part of doctors, healthcare services, and consumers. And it isn't as if we have a free market system anymore within healthcare anyway. The amount of law and regulation within healthcare is quite literally beyond the scope of what a human being can contain in their mind. So even if you become a recipient of one of these $15 an hour government jobs, society as a whole will take a huge hit, and that pain will reverberate through everyone's life. So anyway, I repeat, Bernie Sanders is among the most economically illiterate people that works within the government, and that is truly saying something. Thanks, and that's all.